Hi, everyone, and welcome to Management of Sustainable Enterprises. I'm really excited about this semester. I've just made this little video to kind of help you get started with the semester, kind of understand how the class is oriented, kind of generally what we'll be covering, and to get to know a little bit about me. I'd ask that you do likewise. Upload a little PowerPoint presentation and video about you that kind of outlines the same things here, other than, of course, what the course is about that I'm talking about. And so those things that I'm going to talk to you about really are family, friends, work, and hobbies. So if you'll post this up into the classroom space sometime during the first week of class, that would be fabulous, so that I can kind of get to know a little bit about each one of you. That's me, by the way, 1974. I'm 5 years old in that picture. And that's me and my dog, Cleo. Cleo went with me kind of everywhere, was my best friend, really. And I grew up on an organic beef farm in southeastern Pennsylvania. That's my dad about, 6 or 7 years ago, on an island in upstate New York in a lake. And, he's still living. He's 91 years old now, as is my mom. And from them, I learned a great deal. They lost the organic beef farm because in 1979, after they'd kind of built it up for nearly 20 years, um, there was the 3 Mile Island nuclear accident. And the accident was only about 40 miles away from my parents' farm, and my parents were growing organic beef. They were really one of the very first organic beef farms in the whole country. And we were selling this organic beef to very wealthy people on the West Coast, mainly movie stars. I met a lot of movie stars as a kid, um, and also to stockbrokers in New York City. So, all these folks that were paying a premium for the beef didn't really want to have maybe potentially radioactive organic beef. And we kind of lost the farm. I remember my mom, oh, months after the accident, we were sitting in the we were sitting in the kitchen, and there was an advertisement that said, if you've been impacted by the accident, come to Harrisburg, and if you want to protest against the restart of the undamaged reactor. So she did. And 6 years later, my parents were the very last interveners in that restart proceeding. They held up the restart of that plant for a number of years, all on their own, made massive changes to how the nuclear power industry works, um, both in operator training, some of the emergency safety procedures, and how health effects are kind of measured and reviewed, kind of around the world now during accidents. And there have been other accidents, of course, as you know, Fukushima, um, and uh, and then of course some of the terrible accidents in the terrible accident in Russia in the 80s. So, I've also got lots of friends. They've helped me. This is and family here, but we've put together a tiny little microbrewery over in Norfolk, Arkansas. You're welcome to come out and have a beer with us, assuming that you're of age to do so. And and this was last or 2017, actually last year, just about this time we went over to Bentonville, Arkansas, and announced that we were going to open the brewery, and in fact, we now have. Um, and work. I've been all about litigation with a purpose. This is a young lady who, in 2004, lived in this home that was just covered in carbon black soot near Punxsutawney, Oklahoma. This is a photograph from the air of that plant, and her home was just to the left, to the west of where this picture is taken. All of that black stuff is carbon black. Carbon black is it's a chemical that is used to blacken tires. It's also used to blacken the ink in pens. And it's even used in mascara. It's remarkably good at making things black. And it was getting out into this community along with other really terrible chemicals, something called carbonyl dioxide, for instance, which has as its primary health effect that it causes you to lose your ability to reason when you're exposed to significant quantities of it. So we prosecuted, my friends and me, who were lawyers, prosecuted a class action. And this was the first class action in Oklahoma that had been certified based on a geographic model. And this was our model of how those pollutants were being dispersed out into the community based on an air model and some toxicology that was done. The purple dots are where the Ponca tribal members and other Indians lived in the area. And the result was that the company agreed to a series of settlements with not just the Indians, but also the non-Indians that lived in the area. And we got the plant to change the way that it acts and reduce its pollution. So, hobbies. Well, life isn't all work. Um, and so one of the things that I really love to do is I love to hike. This is a photograph that I took in 2015. That was actually June the 30th, 2015, from the corner of Red Star Mountain, and you're looking north into what's called the Gates of the Arctic. The Gates of the Arctic were named by Bob Marshall. The mountain in the foreground there that you see to the left, that's called the Frigid Crags. The mountains that you can't quite see on the right are Dunarak and Boreal Mountain. All of this was named by Bob Marshall. He was one of the early explorers, not really early, but really early American explorers in this area, and so he obtained the opportunity to name these places for the United States Geologic Service. If you look on that picture, you'll see kind of the tree line descending down to the river. That's the North Fork of the Koyukuk. At that place where the tree line gets to the river, you also have the Arctic tree line that ends there. And so I walked through that, and it was really amazing because it is just like walking through gates. You walk out of this place where there's trees into the Arctic tundra where there aren't any trees, and it's absolutely fabulous. So that's a little bit about me. Let's talk about the course. There are both graduate and undergraduate students in this class, and so there's a little bit of a differentiation. And the way that we're going to do that basically is in your chapter reports. So if you're a graduate student, you're going at the end of the semester to make a report on the Hawken book. And I'll have some signups during our first and second classes. The first week we'll figure this all out. And what you'll do as a graduate student is you'll come in and you're actually going to teach a class about the Hawken chapter that you have selected. There's more in the syllabus about what is expected when you do that. If you're an undergraduate student, you're going to write a series of chapter reports. Now, not all of those chapter reports will count towards your grade, but some of them will. And so that way, I'll be able to select the best ones that you've done. Perhaps maybe you've missed one here or there. That won't end up counting against you as long as you get the minimum number done. And those two sets of reports will comprise a substantial portion of your grade. And you'll see how you're doing as you're going along, because each week I'll turn, and for the undergraduate students, your report back to you so that you can know whether or not you're kind of getting it or not getting it. With the Hawken chapter reports, of course, for the graduate students, you'll get graded on that at the end of the semester, and then there'll be a final exam. You'll also be graded on your participation. Really expect that each of you will ask questions, volunteer answers, become a part of the discourse of understanding what it is that we're trying to do with sustainability. Bring your own opinions to class, share them. Be ready to nicely and kindly defend them and to challenge other people's thinking. So in any event, think about this. I look forward to meeting with you next week. Class, of course, starts on the 20th, so our classes do. I think our first one is the 21st. And I look forward to seeing you there. If you have any questions in the meantime, my telephone number and email address are both on the syllabus, which is uploaded, as well as in the front of this PowerPoint presentation. So look forward from hearing from you, look forward to seeing you, and good luck this semester. Bye.